Hey, what is up everybody? This video we're going to introduce pointers, and in the next video we're going to get some hands-on practice with them. They can be pretty darn confusing for beginners, so I'm hoping I can give you guys some pointers. Alright, enough of that nonsense. Just before we get started, I just wanted to mention that I am producing a C programming crash course, which is basically a really awesome version of this series. Hands-on, condensed. It's great. Check it out if you're looking to interview or get some more practice with C programming and you don't want to have to go and watch this whole 100-part series again. Thank you guys, and just check that out and let's get started. So what the heck is a pointer? So this kind of takes us to new grounds in programming, especially if you if you've never programmed, then this is even more crazy. But even if you've used other programming languages, they don't really use pointers. So it's new, and because of that, it's challenging. So what in the heck is a pointer? It's kind of confusing for beginners, and that's okay if you have a hard time, but I'm going to make it very simple for you guys. First, think of a normal variable, int x, and this is assigned some value. Now, when we do this, inside of our computer, there's an area of memory. There's an area of memory. Another name for memory is RAM. So inside of our memory, there is a spot holding the value of x. So if you wanted to think about it that way, there's a cell in our memory with the value 5. Now, a pointer is a way to point to this location of memory. So we can actually basically change the value of this memory or reference it, but not using the variable x. We're referencing it indirectly through a pointer. The way you create a pointer is you say what type you want to point to. So we're going to point to an int, and then you give it a name. So we're going to say $p. You have to use the pound sign, and that is to indicate that it's a pointer. Typically that's attached to the name of the variable here. And then what you can say is you can set it equal to a value, just like we do this. This is an integer variable x. Well, here, this is an integer pointer p. Then what we do is we can use the address of operator, which we talked about in earlier videos. But that's going to get the address of a variable in memory, x. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a variable p, and it's going to point to 5. So it's kind of like a variable equal to 5, but not quite. It's the address of the variable equal to 5. So that means if we change x to 10, well, that means we replaced this value with 10. Thus, the pointer now points to 10. Same thing, we can actually change the value through the pointer. So essentially now we have the original variable containing the value 10, and we made another variable to point to the same data through a pointer pointing to the value 10. So it's kind of like having two variables, and they can both be used to reference the same data. One directly and one indirectly through a pointer. So pointers can be a little bit confusing at first because it's kind of like one of those things where it's hard to see the benefit of them until you use them a bunch, and it's kind of like when you're a kid and you're starting to learn multiplication, you're like, what am I ever going to do with this in life? But as you're older, you start to understand those things. Maybe that was a terrible example. It's just something you have to practice, and then you're like, oh, I see how this is beneficial. But for now, just learn the fundamentals and understand these concepts, and I promise you it'll be valuable later. So the next thing you need to know is what's known as the indirection operator, and it looks like the asterisk. So this is confusing. This is what I don't like, but we just have to deal with it. When we declared the variable p, we did it like so. And this asterisk here says this is a pointer. This is different than the asterisk here, which is the indirection operator. I hate that, but we just gotta deal with it. So when we declare the variable, we use an asterisk. Then, if we want to get the value that that variable is pointing to, so P points to the value 5, if we want to get that value, we use the indirection operator before the variable P. So what that means, since P was originally pointing to X, what we could do is we could say X equals 10 and change that value to 10. Or what we could do is we could say the value at P is equal to 20. And that'll change the value. At this point, if you printed X, it would print 20. So the benefit here is that once we understand pointers, we can use pointers to functions, and this will allow functions to change the values of variables. And that can be really valuable if you need to do something like a swap function. You're not able to change the value of variables unless you're using pointers. So definitely useful, definitely important. You just got to wrap your brain around some different concepts. The 3 things you really need to understand is how you declare them, like this, how you assign to them, which is like this, P equals address of some variable X. And then, so that's the second way, that's the second thing you need to know. And then how you reference the value where the pointer points to, which is with the indirection operator. So this can also be called dereferencing.